What's going on, everyone? Welcome back. Today we've got another live fantasy football mock draft for you back on FantasyPros with the 12-team full PPR mock where we will be selecting from the 7th overall spot. So it should be pretty interesting. Our roster, 1 quarterback, 2 running backs, 2 wide receivers, a tight end, a flex, and then 5 bench spots. But that's pretty much it. So let's get into it. And while we wait for this draft to load, a quick reminder, if you enjoy, hit that like button, subscribe, give us a follow on Twitter at AllDayPigskin. Continue interacting with us there. Let us hear it in the comment section. Do you agree, disagree, along with any other questions you guys might have? We'll do our best to answer them all. But with that being said, the draft has started. We are on the clock. Christian McCaffrey, CeeDee Lamb, Tyreek Hill, Jamar Chase, Justin Jefferson, and Bijan Robinson were the first 6 picks. So, again, it's still May. No major changes in the first round, really, especially with the first 5-6 picks. It's Christian McCaffrey, then it's that slew of wide receivers, followed by the 2 running backs, Bijan and Breece Hall. And I say Breece Hall, even though he hasn't been drafted, because that's the way I'm going to go with this selection here. I'm kind of picking in the middle of the draft, and I'm just going to go best player available. I think the first couple of rounds, that's the way I'm going to try and do it. And we'll see what comes out of it. But just as reference, the 3 players that I'd be looking at, Amon-Ra, Breece Hall, Garrett Wilson. But I'm going to do a little bit, higher weight for that running back position. And let's see if it pays off. Let's see if there's a huge running back run. Let's see if, it's something crazy or not. But after our Breece Hall pick, wow, Saquon Barkley immediately thereafter. So we're not used to seeing that. In fact, we've seen Barkley more as a early to mid-second round selection. I have 0 problems with the way this is. I think this is more accurate. Then Amon-Ra, Puka, A.J. Brown, Garrett Wilson, great value there at the end of the first round, especially it being a 12-team league. Then Devontae Adams, then a huge run on the running back position with Gibbs, Kyron, Jonathan Taylor, and Travis Etienne. So we're on the clock now, and I think it is, overkill if we went with another running back here. I don't say, actually, let me rephrase that. Not overkill, but I think it is a reach. I think it's a reach because I have Rachaad White, for example, ranked, decently lower than, let's say, an Olave, a Marvin Harrison, not Marvin Harrison, Michael Pittman, excuse me, Drake London. So I'm going to go with a guy that I think is going to have a breakout season this year. I've said his name before, Drake London. I am a believer. I think him and Kirk Cousins is going to be a really nice duo. He's the alpha guy as far as the wide receiver position is concerned there in Atlanta. I'd rather have him than a rookie in Marvin Harrison. I think that he has a better quarterback for fantasy purposes than Michael Pittman, than Chris Olave, and less mouths to feed than Brendan Ayuk in San Francisco. So we're going Drake London here. And really putting our money where our mouth is in terms of guys that we believe in Drake London. So I'm looking at the draft board again, and I see one big name that's still somehow on the in play. That's Michael Pittman. I was considering him at 206 for what it's worth. But just breaking it down and why it's possible, we saw Marvin Harrison. I continue to say that's way too early for him. Then Brendan Ayuk, Chris Olave, Nico Collins, Cooper Kupp, Mike Evans. I like Cooper Kupp getting some love here. I've said it, he's undervalued. Mike Evans, I'd rather have some other guys ahead of Mike Evans, like a Pittman, like a Drake London. A-Chain, Josh Allen, Sam Laporta, Rachaad White, Debo, DJ Moore. I think right now is, a really good value Michael Pittman. I think running back wise, Josh Jacobs is a really good value. So I'm not going to lie to you. I see probably more than likely a running back run here that could take place. So I'm pretty tempted to go with Josh Jacobs in this scenario. The question we have to answer is, Michael Pittman drafted versus Josh Jacobs. What do we think is more likely going to occur in the next 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 10 picks? Like, are we going to see all of these running backs that I like in Jacobs, Pacheco, Henry, Kamara, Cook, Mixon, Walker, and Aaron Jones drafted? Or might one of them fall through? As opposed to if we select, a running back, then Michael Pittman will obviously be drafted. But, how big is the drop off going to be? Like, how big is the drop off between a Michael Pittman and then let's say a Terry McLaurin, who I also really like, and I think he has a big time quarterback upgrade. So for that reason, I think I've talked myself into going Josh Jacobs, even though, again, I'm going to say Michael Pittman is the better value. So let's see if it kind of bites us in the butt or not. And man, okay, so Alvin Kamara's still there, Joe Mixon, Aaron Jones. So we gambled a little bit and we lost. Michael Pittman would have been the better pick, and then we go one of those running backs that was available to us in the 4th round. So that first kind of real inflection point here, but I'm not too mad about it. Like I said, Josh Jacobs I think is a good value in the 3rd round. In Green Bay, the primary guy. So now, Travis Kelce was drafted. We could just go real running back heavy and go Kamara or Joe Mixon. I'm looking at the names. Jalen Waddle is still also available. I think he's still a very good value pick as well. If I was going wide receiver, I would go with him. And then, hope Terry McLaurin falls to us, something of that nature. I'm looking at our roster, and just as a reminder, Breece Hall, Josh Jacobs, Drake London. I think I'm going to secure the running back position. Let's see what happens when our 3 out of our first 4 picks are running back. Let's see how that plays out. So here, do we want to go Kamara? Do we want to go Mixon with the new home in Houston? Kenneth Walker in Seattle? Aaron Jones in Minnesota? I tend to lean Alvin Kamara. It's not by much. I'd like to see some better, utilization from him, but it being PPR, I tend to give him the nod. I think he's got a pretty high floor, so for that reason, I feel good about Alvin Kamara there. I mean, we have 3 running backs. Kamara's our flex, so a good situation for us to be in. Now we're back on the clock. Of course, Jalen Waddle was selected. We did see a running back run, so I'm happy we went with Alvin Kamara. Now, again, we can get back to best player available. I really like Terry McLaurin. I said that before. So I'm going to get my number 2 wide receiver now. I think he's going to be a very good value piece. So let's draft Terry McLaurin at this point in time. I'm not putting weight on the the quarterbacks. So we can get a fine quarterback afterwards. Ramondre Stevenson's still available. George Pickens on the board. I think he could have an absolute breakout season without Deontay Johnson. So that's a pick that I like. I'm not going to lie to you. Tight ends that are left, Evan Ingram, George Kittle, Kyle Pitts, David Njoku. I think we can maybe wait one more round and then land one of those guys in the following. Ramondre Stevenson, good value pick, but at this point in time, I think we're doing pretty good with running backs. So wide receiver, let's just go George Pickens. Too many mouths to feed in Kansas City. Rashee Rice might be suspended as well. So George Pickens. And now if one of those tight ends is available, that's where we're going to go. Kittle, Njoku. So who do you go with here? I mean, I think that George Kittle, there's more mouth. I mean, there's so many mouths to feed in Cleveland and in San Francisco. That's a tough situation. It really is. I think it's a coin flip. Would have really, really liked Kyle Pitts to fall to us. I think he could be in store for a breakout season as well. But I mean, look, George Pickens was a tremendous pick. I think really good value, so I'm not going to poo-poo it too much. I'm not going to look back. Quarterbacks, we've reached that point where it's like, okay, we're just going to wait. We're going to be patient. Wide receivers that I like, Deontay Johnson, Hollywood Brown. I think one of them gets back to us, so I'm just going to select one of these tight ends, and then I'm going to back them up with somebody else afterwards. I will go with George Kittle here. It's gonna be a situation where I think whoever you go with, one of these guys is going to have big games, down games where they kind of just disappear. So you got to take the good with the bad. Now I'm going to go with another wide receiver that I like. I'm going to go with Deontay Johnson. Running backs, like I said before, pretty set, so I'm not panicking. I really like the wide receivers that we have for PPR purposes. Terry McLaurin, George Pickens, Deontay Johnson, so I like that there. TJ Hawkinson could be a sneaky pick, especially once he returns from his injury, so I think we could stash him. Let's see, looking at these cheat sheets, at what point we can stash him. We've got 4 more picks to make. If there's any like tremendous value, Jerome Ford could be a sneaky pick depending on how long Nick Chubb is out. So I don't mind that. But let's go with one of those tight ends. Also Dalton Schultz. You know what? Let's see how many tight ends have been drafted. So pretty much, yeah, most of these teams have a tight end. I can wait until the next round for a tight end. That is kind of what my takeaway is from this situation. So here I'm going to go Jerome Ford. I'm going to go with that potentially sneaky pick. He's really a guy that's only going to be viable for a little bit. But it's going to be a situation where, maybe trade bait, maybe something like that. Maybe Nick Chubb has a setback, and then all of a sudden you've got a starting running back, right? So I was a little bit wrong. TJ Hawkinson, Jake Ferguson were drafted, but, somebody that's still there, I believe Dallas Goedert. Yeah, Dallas Goedert and Dalton Schultz both still there as backup tight ends. So, I think both are viable options. I'm going to go with Dallas Goedert. I think that he is kind of higher in the pecking order than Dalton Schultz, especially with the addition of Stephon Diggs now. So let's go with Dallas Goedert, and then we're going to make 2 final picks. One of them will be a quarterback, and then another kind of best player available. Looking at these names, here, I don't love the running back situation quarterback-wise. We could go with somebody like a Kirk Cousins, Aaron Rodgers, Matthew Stafford, all guys that I like. Curtis Samuel in Buffalo, I think, is a sneaky pick. I'm not going to lie to you guys. I think he very well could be the number 1 wide receiver there in Buffalo. So I think that's a good pick. A.J. Dillon as a handcuff to Josh Jacobs also makes sense. But, I'll go with Curtis Samuel just to show him some love. And then I'm going to select one last player, which will be a quarterback. And then we will call this thing, at that point. Here, I'm going to go with a quarterback that I really like. I've been singing his praises before: Kirk Cousins, Aaron Rodgers, Matthew Stafford. But in this case, it's Aaron Rodgers. Aaron Rodgers to Breece Hall, that nice little quarterback running back stack. I love it. FantasyPros is going to hate it. The hell with FantasyPros in their rankings. I'm telling everybody Aaron Rodgers is going to be a top 10 quarterback. We get a B grade. I honestly thought it might be a little bit lower, especially with the way we handled the quarterback and tight end position. But I like it. I love our running backs. Our wide receivers, I think we got some really nice high upside guys, potential breakouts. But hey, let me know your thoughts in the comment section. Agree, disagree, along with any other questions you guys might have. We'll do our best to answer them all. If you enjoyed, hit that like button, subscribe. Give us a follow on Twitter at AllDayPigskin to follow us there, ask more questions. But in the meantime, we'll see you guys in future videos.